how it is.
Yeah, that's right.
We did our best.
There's some interesting things in there.
Rumple's my email buddy. I love it. I get excited. I got friends of all. Oh no, everyone looks gorgeous.
You really at me thought I had the same.
I noticed. Oh, I thought you all looked quite beautiful. And today.
So Sarah?
I don't know.
So I didn't have any daughters. So you haven't seen it. It's right here. Oh, the Wolves are here. Gabriel, hello. Well, they'd be borrowing all my jewels all the time, right? They'd be in my...
God, a Rashi. This is good. Rashi. I didn't know we made him white. I thought he was dead. Rashi. I thought he died a long time ago.
See this? I made $1 million, simple thing like this. You ever see that? Simple thing like this. You ever see this guy talks about, he has these guests, people that just thought of something became millionaires. He's on it once a week.
Yeah.
Simple things that you can. He was a former advocate.
Bill, where were you born?
I was born here in Springfield, Massachusetts.
And what street?
We were born on Linden Street.
In which
My
neighborhood?
families were in the Forest Park section, but my father came from North End, so I am one of the Nair, one of the 27 Nair children. My father is Abe, my mother was Molly, and that family consisted of 5 brothers and 4 sisters. Some of the first members of this synagogue where I was bar mitzvahed in 1960, when the synagogue was on Chestnut Street.
And what was the name of your synagogue?
Beth Israel.
And it was on Chestnut Street at what avenue? What number?
The number you'll be better off to get from my father.
I have it. And do you remember when they closed that shul?
Well, I had moved away from Springfield at the time. The synagogue became a church, which it is to this day, so it remains a house of worship. But my cousins and I had early memories of going to the synagogue there, to high holiday services.
What was across the street from the synagogue? Do you remember?
No, I really don't. But I could tell you everything that was around the synagogue because during the high holiday services, we would try to escape as much as possible. And out in the back, there was a vineyard, small grape, that we would grow Concord grapes for the high holidays to make wine for. So occasionally when we were misbehaving, one would go out and occasionally have a Concord grape fight during the sermon.
So when you were in Forest Park, where did you go to shul?
After
Did you
Beth
all
Israel,
go back to Chestnut Street?
we all remained at Beth Israel. We went there for the high holiday services, where my parents and the entire Nair family went.
So do you think
Go ahead.
Was there a
please.
divide between the people who would drive to shul and the people who would not?
It's a wonderful question to ask of an Orthodox synagogue. So Rabbi Sheinkoff of blessed memory would never answer that question directly. What he would say when my father asked him, Rabbi, the only way we can get here is to drive. What should we do? Is it okay to drive on this Shabbos? And he would say, the only thing I'm going to tell you is I want you here in shul. That was his answer. So don't ask, don't tell. He wanted the community at that synagogue.
Did you have a sort of a cultural or an ideological divide between the people who would never drive and the people who started driving?
The Orthodox community in Springfield, like so many communities, moved as it grew, as it became more affluent. My father just last night talked about his first memories of that synagogue. They lived not too far, about a mile on Linden Street. They had no hot water. They put coins to get gas lamps to come out. Everybody was very poor. So those who were the most frum, those that were part of the Orthodox community, lived really within walking distance. As they became more well-to-do, my father was able to end up in an apartment with his family that actually had heat. They had a Glenwood E wood stove in that home, and that's how his mother heated the entire apartment for 9 kids. 3 in a bed, 3 rooms.
That was on Linden Street in...
Yes, Linden Street was near Chestnut Street, where the synagogue originally had its roots.
So the family kept going back to Chestnut Street for shul.
They did.
And you said you were away, so you must have gone away to the army or to school or something.
Well,
like
I didn't go to the army, but I went to college, and I moved. My family and I now live in New Jersey.
So after you left, the synagogue moved up to here,
Yes, it did.
1963 or so.
Yes. That's right.
So do you think, just to stay on that subject for a little longer, the driving business,
Everybody well?
that it became an issue of,
Ari called
it
us.
became an economic, social bracket
during
divide?
No, I think that what the challenges that face the Orthodox community are still very much the same. There are those who honored the halacha to the strictest letter of the law and who would not drive under any circumstances. When Rabbi Wolff had his most recent child, it was over Yontif, and he walked to shul. It took him almost 9 hours to walk to get here from Yontif, from the hospital where his wife just gave birth to be at the synagogue Yom Kippur. So those tenets of faith, for those that were the most observant in the community, they live near this community and they walk. Others felt that when they had to balance these two values, that they were too far away from the synagogue, or they became older, or their health became impaired, they drove to shul.
Again, your parents' names are?
Abe and Molly Nair were my parents. My mother, of blessed memory, passed away last December at 88. My father, Abe, will be 92 on December the 23rd.
He's here.
And he is here today. The Nair family were 5 brothers and 4 sisters, all of whom were members of this synagogue. And one of the reasons that Shimshon Nair, my grandfather, settled in Springfield is because of the public education that could afford his children, and because of the orthodoxy, because of the synagogue, and because that was the roots of the Jewish community in those days, around 1909 through 1911.
Here, I'll hold it. What does your family do for a living?
My father was a salesman. My mother spent a lifetime in Jewish communal service. So the Nair family did everything but raise the money for this synagogue through bingo, through things that would repair the roof, to working to build the Springfield Jewish Community Center, which is not too far away from here. And that was many of the values of the women. Truly, I think Eishes Chayil is the best way to describe that commitment to Jewish communal life.
What kind of salesman was your father?
My father was a salesman in the wholesale toy industry for many years of his life. He worked for King's department stores and was a toy buyer.
How about your grandfather?
Shimshon Nair was fluent in 6 languages, could translate everything easily from Hebrew into English, and he was a waiter in the maitre d' originally at the Waldorf Astoria in New York when they first came to this community, and then at the Highland Hotel in downtown Springfield.
What did he do there, maitre d'?
And he was the maitre d' of that thing, doing the best he could to support his 9 children. Pietra Neamf in Romania, so Berkau, Romania, and Pietra Neamf were where my parents, my grandparents came from. And so most of the Nairs, the Kaufman family and the Nair family from Romania and from nearby Russia.
Your children? You have children?
I do indeed. I am blessed.
They maintain the tradition. What's their level? How would the observance level continue from generation?
It's a good question. Our family continues to keep kosher, as do my children, Devorah Ilana, Debbie Ilana Nair, and she is going to be 22 in December, and she's a senior at Tufts University outside of Boston. My son Aaron is 25, and he is
I'm going to run this.
Psychology major. He's working for an internet marketing company in Edgewater, New Jersey. He lives in New York. So the tradition and the values, I think, in my children is one that goes from being observant in terms of kashrut, not observing Sabbath, to observing some of the high holidays, to what I hope will be the continuation of the values that they learned from us, we from our parents, and all of them that started in this synagogue for many of us at the turn of the century.
Are you a member of the Orthodox synagogue now?
We're a member of a conservative synagogue.
This is something we are interested in.
See how it passes on.
And we first, when we moved to New Jersey, were members of an Orthodox synagogue with an Orthodox charter. And then as things continued to migrate, it was a charter that still remained its Orthodox, but also had parts of its minhag, its customs that were closer to Orthodox.
May I please have your attention?
Thank you.
Can you hear me all right? All right. It's great to see everybody here. My name is Ken Gorenstein. I am the president of Beth Israel. I'd like to start things off by introducing our MC today, Dr. Steve Sobel. And I have to tell you, when I approached Steve for this MCing today, I don't think I actually finished my sentence without him saying, yes, absolutely, I would be honored to MC this event. So thank you for that, Steve. I know that Steve has a very special place in his heart for Beth Israel, and I know that you have a very, very special bond with Rabbi Wolff, as I think most of us here do. So without further ado, please welcome, as it says on his business card, Speaker Extraordinaire, Dr. Steve Sobel.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. And I just want to remind you, you can never be me, but that was a nice job. That was terrific.
I can't live up.
Well, the enthusiasm is very, very nice. Thank you. Keep it up. We want to give you 2 general reminders to begin with.
One is that we have Ken Schoen and Jen Tregear here from the Historical Society, the Western Mass Historical Society. And it's my assumption that you will be filming and that you will be also being able to give interviews. People will be able to be speaking if they want to, correct? Okay. And we also want to apologize in advance if we've inadvertently left you off the program in terms of sponsorship. Please forgive us today. It was inadvertent, and we're still glad you're here, and we are very, very honored about that. So thank you very, very much. We're going to start off with the Hatikvah, with Shimon Shushan helping us and leading us in the Hatikvah, and we are glad that he is available today for that. So without any further ado, the Hatikvah. Wasn't that a beautiful Hatikvah? That was fantastic. You were all very, very good. As I was saying, Ira Pollock, as I was saying. Yes. Just trying to get your attention. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. That was beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful. This is really a celebration of the history of the synagogue and, of course, a tribute to our friend Rabbi Wolff. With that in mind, I'd like to bring up another luminary who is no stranger to some of us and a friend to most of us, Steve Nissen, who will lead us with the, there he is. Steve, I want to give you a big intro as you walk in. Steve Nissen, Star Spangled Banner. He's shy. Can you give him a round of applause, please? Very shy. Steve Nissen, in person.
I'm in it. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proud we are at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the pearls
Star Spangled Banner. That will be available immediately after the program on CD. Steve, thank you very much. Moving into the program, we want to take the time very slowly to honor a total of 5 rabbis besides our honoree. We have Rabbi Edelman, Rabbi Hyman. If you can just stand up so we can see you, that would be a blessing. Rabbi Chaim Kasavsky and Rabbi Noah Kasavsky, and that with Rabbi Wolff makes 5. Thank you. Now moving into a very integral part of the program, the introduction of the rabbi's family. And I made a statement a long time ago that the Wolff is nothing without his pack, and we have quite a pack here. And I will also make an announcement that Rabbi Wolff does not know that we have as well a secret video of Rabbi Wolff walking from Dickinson Street on a snowy, icy day to the synagogue, and he still holds the world's record of 14 minutes, 15 seconds. Rabbi is now being sponsored by Nike. If you look at his shoes, he has Nike shoes on. Those are only available. Certain holiday editions will prevail, Rabbi. So we want to bring you up to date on that. Thank you. And I know you'll be unselfish with the monetary funds accrued from that. And let's introduce the family. And if the family can stand up, or if you can help each other stand up, or encourage somebody to stand up, that would be good. We have his esteemed, loving partner, who's helped produce the pack. She's the Wolffette, Faggy Wolff. Shua Wolff. Anna Wolff. I have to clear my throat before a lot of these names. Chaya Wolff. I pronounce this one Sterna Wolff. Got that right. Rachel Wolff. Leah Wolff. Gabrielle Wolff. Would you like me to say your name again? Gabrielle Wolff. Does that feel that good? And Sarah Wolff. So we have the whole pack up here, and they're beautiful people. We'll say more about Rabbi Wolff later, of course. But for now, we would like to call up a rabbi, Fred Hyman. All right, Fred, I heard there's a new dance called the Motzi. Can you please perform the Motzi for us today? Sure. Thank you, Fred. My pleasure.
This is the first step of the program. You don't have to do anything. We got our exercise in up and down for the anthems. But before I recite the bracha for the motzi, it was nice to see so many of you wash beforehand and make your own motzi. And this is the official motzi for the program. I'm honored to be here. And there will be a delay of a few seconds so that I could wash my hands. And before I do that, just wanted to express my appreciation to Rabbi Wolff and to his family. And Rabbi Wolff is a real mensch. He's a Talmud Chacham, a scholar, and he's a very fine person. It's been my honor to work with him over the last 5 years since my family and I have been in Springfield and Long Meadow. So Mazal Tov today, congratulations, and we wish you Hatzlacha. Thank you very much.
Of course, there will be the wash station available before the meal, and we also have a special request. There is a card on the table, and it looks like Rabbi Wolff. It may be Rabbi Wolff, and we'd like you to feel free to sign that card, maybe write a nice memorable note at your leisure, and we do appreciate that. Certainly that'll be a lasting and trusting memory for us.
Shoot Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
name?
My name? Marcia White.
Irving Sir.
Bill Oken. George Torrey.
Sydney Torrey. Jenny Black.
Bob Deshevsky, best wishes.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Heim.
Granowitz.
Say a word about Rabbi Wolff.
Bonnie Pillar. Bonnie Pillar.
Many years, 35 years, I guess, since the show.
What's your name? Name?
Henny Rosenblatt. You ever had? He's one of the nicest people.
Edie Winokur.
My family has been at Beth Israel since the early 1990s.
Bonnie Ryder. I hope there's no lettuce in my tea.
My grandfather.
Hi, Jane. Bob Kushner. Good luck to you, Rabbi.
I'm going to work with you so you don't look like you're being interviewed as a war criminal. That was very good, though. And for those that are a little sad they didn't get to see David Nair's handsome face in the beginning of the video, David is seated over here where you can come view him while he's here with us today. And secondly, we've had the people from the Historical Society mouthing words to me, Jewish Historical Society. Can we stand corrected on that? Thank you very, very much. Moving into the program, we'd like to bring up some distinguished speakers, but before that, we have some distinguished guests who've come a distance to be here with our beloved event. Rabbi Gajzinski and his family sitting at the lead table there. Would you give them a round of applause, please? We thank you so much for coming. Rabbi Edelman, would you please come up and spend a few moments with us with the Devar Torah and a few words of wisdom, and then I will bring Steve Nissen up directly after that. So let's have Rabbi Edelman please come up. Thank you, we're honored. Thank you very, very much.
Shalom Aleichem, good afternoon everyone. It's a pleasure to be with all you people, wonderful people that most of you, almost everyone I know for many years. My coming together in the shul to honor a rabbi with close to 10 years of experience is a very exciting time, very beautiful time. What a wonderful time to be together. To honor Rabbi Wolff and his family. My claim to fame is that Rabbi Kosovsky and I brought him to Springfield, to Long Meadow, where he serves honorably as one of the members of our Hebrew staff. And as such, when the Beth Israel was looking for a polished rabbi from London, so I said, we have the guy for you. And I gave them Rabbi Wolff, and he has endeared himself to each and every one of us in our community. We're very proud to have him here with his dear family, and welcome his father-in-law, who's here today, very good. And I happen to know Mrs. Wolff very well, because her grandfather came from Baltimore. He was a rabbi there, and he was my mentor. I grew up in his home. So I was very glad to have the part of the family living with in this community. This event takes place in the shul. Shul, what does it mean coming together in the shul? What binds together the Jewish nation? We sang two songs before. We sang the Star Spangled Banner. Now, I, who grew up in Baltimore, in Shabbos, after the Cholent, we'd go down, I lived near the wharf, and we'd go down to Federal Hill, or Fort McHenry, where that song was sang. That's where the man was right there in front of us. When I hear the Star Spangled Banner, I know Betsy Ross, she made up the flag. So my thoughts are the bombs going off in the harbor right near where I was born, where I grew up. When we play Hatikva, then the Jewish national anthem, what do we think about? We think about the Keso Maravi, the Western Wall. That, even though Israel has mountains, Israel has lakes, Israel has oceans. In fact, Israel has everything that any country in the world has. That's right, it's a big country. But what do we think about the Kotel? We think about the Western Wall. What is the Western Wall? Sure, that's where we came to pray. All of Israel came 3 times every year, and they prayed to God and asked for peace and prosperity and health. That's what binds the Jewish nation. It's the shul, the coming together. This year in Jewish calendar happens after the sabbatical year. It's called the year of Hakel. Hakel means gathering together. Everyone came together at that time, and the chief rabbi, the Kohen Gadol, whoever, would speak to them portions of the Torah that binds us together. So you're coming together in the shul today, that binds us together as a nation and as a people. Especially this shul, Beth Israel, I don't call it Beth Israel. To me, it's the big shul. I lived downtown for 4 years, and I davened in the big shul. And that shul was open 24 hours a day for anybody who needed any help, anybody who needed anything that came to the big shul. In those days, it was after the war, you had lots of people coming from Europe who were in need, and they came to the big shul, and they were helped. I remember back in the 50s when I bought the building, and we needed a Torah for Rosh Hashanah. So I went to the president of the shul, to Mr. Platt, and I said, can you loan us a Torah for these 3 days, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? He said, sure. Go to the shamus, he'll tell you, pick a good one. It's so nice. I said to him, what if maybe you have an extra chauffeur? We needed it. So he said, of course. The big shul has big-hearted. That's where the people were big-hearted. That's what's called the big shul. Not only was one of the first, maybe the first shul that was started in Springfield. They brought a little background of the Jewish community. Originally, they came from Hartford. The Jewish community in Hartford started 100 years before Springfield. That's why back in 1815, when this great Jewish benefactor who lived in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, when he passed away, so he left $10,000 for every shul in America. So Hartford got it back in 1850. We didn't have it yet. We were not here yet in force as a shul in Springfield. But you have to know, coming together today as a shul, you're part of that tradition of coming together to the Kotel, to come together in Jerusalem, to the shul, to the temple, where Jewish people pray. That binds us together. And that's why you're honoring a rabbi in the shul with us who personifies what a Jewish leader is supposed to be. He's kind, courteous, his teachings are so interesting, his love for the children is so great. That's what a Jewish leader is. And we find one of the signs of a Jewish leader is also that he's a humble. Moses was the most humble person that ever lived, and he was the greatest leader that ever lived. So Rabbi Wolff combines all these great, great traditions. So I want to give the shul a special thanks, a special chazak for having this rabbi with you, and I hope the Almighty is still the boss of the world. No matter what the UN says or other people say, the Almighty is still the boss, and I hope you'll continue having him in the future as long as the Almighty wants you to. So thank you very much again for
Rabbi, thank you.
And our next guest to speak will be, Gabbai from the synagogue will be Steve Nissen, who's one of our 2 Gabbais. And Steve, would you please come up and don't say goodbye, but please say hello. Steve Nissen once again. Thank you. Steve, it's all yours.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Sobel, Rabbi Edelman, distinguished guest, and our great Rabbi Yakov Wolff. Greetings. We are here today to celebrate 124 years of tradition of Beth Israel. My generation is a link to those who had the foresight to move from Chestnut Street in Springfield to our present site on William Street in Long Meadow. I remember so vividly Reuben Black. For those who really knew him better, Booby. Called him Booby. If you say Reuben, you didn't really know him, or you weren't around at the time he was the president. He was a president for 18 years. I don't know how he did it. I did it for 4, and that was overwhelming. I don't know how anybody could do it. 18 years. He was a great, great guy. His portrait stands in the hallway as a tribute to his memory. Every time I entered the sanctuary, I glaze at the wonderful marble Aron Kodesh. Unfortunately, I've been told that we cannot take it to our new site, hopefully this coming year. Ever so often, I look at the names in the back of the seats of the sanctuary, and it brings back old memories of people who are active and who attended services here. I clearly remember Rabbi David Shenkov, who was our first spiritual leader at this site. He put together a booklet for Friday night services. We used to have services monthly after the traditional service, Mikveh and Mara services earlier in the evening. My wife and I have been members here for over 30 years. When we were here originally, we first joined, there were 225 units. In the good old days, see the sliding curtain there? We used to open it up so we could fit the crowds in for the high holidays. That was the good old days. Both my daughters, Kim and Deborah, were named in the synagogue, and they had their bat mitzvahs in the synagogue. We formed a very, very active Mr. and Mrs. Club that was in competition to the older folks. So they didn't like that. We got a lot of things done. It was a great, great fun. But, we were the young ones then, now we're the old ones. Unfortunately, time has a way of marching on. It's hard to believe that after 124 years, this synagogue will be no more in its own name. As president during my administration, about 10 years ago, we had the foresight and the luck to hire Rabbi Wolff as our spiritual leader. Several years before we hired Rabbi Wolff, our Friday night minions were dwindling. Smaller and smaller and smaller. And the rabbi just about gave up. He used to get on the phone for hours with very little results. Rabbi Wolff made it one of his first priorities to get the millions back up to par. In a very short time, after many, many calls and many, many hellos, we started doing it. And it's been going on. It's almost self-sufficient. Once in a while, the rabbi has to call to remind us, we're missing a person or two. Please do everything you could do to make it. Now, of course, even that time, we had harder and harder to get millions for Pesach, Shavuos, and other holidays. Never a problem for high holidays, but people are not in the area or the work or whatever, but the rabbi did it. And we have to acknowledge this. It's a very, very difficult job. And a lot of people didn't want to come. Know why they come? They come for the rabbi, because he is a special, special person. He reminds me of our forefather. I didn't know him, but you read in the Chumash, Abraham. He treats everyone as an equal. Now that's extremely important. Whether you're learned or not learned, he treats you the same. This is very unusual. He greets members of the congregation and makes them feel at home. He takes personal interest in the members. Just 3 years ago, our friend and a great friend, past president, Isaac Slager, unfortunately suffered a stroke and passed away. During the time that he's fighting for his life, Rabbi Wolff comforted and supported his family, went down to the Hartford Hospital, said to heal him in prayers. Who else would do this? Put himself out. We're always grateful for his efforts. The rabbi is a true mensch, and we have been blessed to have him as our leader and friend. Our membership, unfortunately, has fallen to about 35 units. Thus, the economy, with facing this economy, it's not feasible to continue on by ourselves at this site. The merger of the 3 Orthodox synagogues into one strong synagogue is the only salvation for Orthodoxy to continue in this community. The memorial plaques, as David Nair said in his slideshow, will follow us. Thus, we'll never forget our former friends and relatives who have passed away. Our president, Ken Gernstein, has done a great, great job to help Alliance move on. No one really appreciates the work the president has to do unless they were in his shoes. And it's extraordinary. But with the help of God, everything will work out well, and Orthodoxy will continue to strive for many decades in this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Steve Nissen. I'm going to call up a few people here for various purposes and gifts, but on a personal note, we have so many wonderful, stellar members of the synagogue over the years of different ages. I have a letter in front of me, and I think will touch your spirit, from Abraham Engelson, and I'm going to have the honor of reading it. I know his parents are here, and looks like you're smiling, huh? Yeah, that's good. It says, thank you, and he could not be here. Thank you, Rabbi Wolff, for taking personal responsibility for many of Beth Israel's activities. For the weekly phone calls to ensure that we have a minyan, organizing a mincha service on Shabbos, followed by Shal Shudas, and of course, your cholent. Rabbi, digestive processors. Thank you for consistently having a positive attitude, even when things aren't going so well, for being a good listener to other people's concerns, and for your genuine interest in other people. May you continue to make room in your heart for others and share your inner warmth with them. Those are great words by Abraham Engelson. I was pleased to share them with you. Thank you very much. And before I call up a noted family, I was allowed to make one of my own comments as an observation. I think many people of the spirit of this synagogue and shining examples. An inspiration for me has been one particular family for their devotion, their commitment, their love of the synagogue, and their influence on other people. They may not know it, but to me they're a champion family. Can we have a special round of applause, unbeknownst to them, for my favorite family here, the Colts family. Can you give them a round of applause? And now I'd like to call up the Nair family, composing of David Nair, Abe Nair, and Hai Nair, who will present a gift to the rabbi. Would you please come up? Thank you.
I'm just going to introduce Hai and Abe. I think they're, in terms of longevity, they're our senior members right now. Come to shul every single week to make a minyan. Yontivs, everything. Hai and Abe have a presentation to make to the rabbi, so I'm going to let them speak for a few minutes.
For those of you who are football fans, the Patriots are 6 points behind. Anyway, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'd like to extend a couple of invitations. I'd like to say to our dear Rabbi that you and your pack of wolves are invited to our house anytime. Just knock at the door, and we love you all. My kid brother here has something to say.
Thank you. Rabbi, comes Wednesday at 10 minutes after 6, I get the phone call, and I know it's got to be time to go to shul for Shabbos and pick up my brother, and we have a good time every Saturday morning. It's beautiful. If I can just personally give you a little story for 2 minutes. I want you to know what the Nair family means to Beth Israel. I understand that I are the two oldest members left. Not only that, but next to the bars, we were the largest amount of Nairs. There were 9 of us, and the Bar family was number 1. They were 13, I believe. Anyway, we've been loyal to Beth Israel for 84 years and hope to be another 22.
Rabbi, would you come up here, please? I like to present this little gift I did by numbers. And I just, every stroke that I made, I thought of you. I want you to know it's, I didn't do these by numbers, let's put it that way. But it was my pleasure to do this drawing of you. And I'm very fond of you, and I think you're one of the nicest people I've met so far. And I want you to wish them luck. You look very familiar.
Now, if you just indulge me for another 2 or 3 minutes, I have a couple of comments that I'd like to make also. I have to write mine down. Rabbi, this is directed to you and for you. And I'd just like to say personally that I don't have much time in which to say this, but I'm going to begin just randomly on page 18. We've known each other for about 10 years now, and I think we've supported each other through some emotionally challenging and charged events that have impacted and altered my life greatly. Some of our most memorable interactions and conversations have not necessarily been in shul, but over the phone on many nights at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight, when our agenda might have included shul business, but often, more importantly, critical issues such as constructing a eulogy that would both meaningfully and honorably summarize and reflect upon the life of a shul member or someone's extended family. Even those who did not know you well felt your embrace and your assurance during those difficult times of grief and mourning. You were always available with feelings and words of warmth and sensitivity. And when my Aunt Betty's life was nearing its conclusion, your commitment of time and comfort was generous, driving me to the hospital on an almost impassable, snowy, and icy February day to keep a vigil of prayer and support. On happier occasions, your visits and those of Faggy and your children brought cheer and hospitality to both Betty and Molly in the nursing home. They welcomed and they relished them. I'm only sorry that you never knew my parents, as I'm certain you would have established a bond of friendship and cordiality with each of them. And until this building is raised, I feel their presence will be felt in an environment that they helped to create. I also feel you can appreciate them through your special relationship with my uncles aunts, and cousins who in their own unique ways and styles provide service and leadership to the synagogue and the community. Now my time has definitely expired, and I think we're on page 19 of our friendship and communal journey. It has been my privilege to know you and experience firsthand your warmth, your integrity, your dedication, and commitment to your family, your congregation, and your community, and to testify that you are indeed a man of peace, bringing harmony, balance, and enlightenment into the lives of others. Thank you. Now I'd like to call on Betty. Ken, would you come up, please, for a minute? I know it's not your style to accept something like this, but you're going to. We'd like to recognize this afternoon, in this portion dedicated to the synagogue, the work of Ken Gornstein. He's been the president of the synagogue and a key member of the Alliance ever since we began meeting about seems like 30 years ago, but I think it was probably about 3 years ago with house meetings and so forth. And Ken has really dedicated himself beyond all measure, sacrificing his family, his work, phone calls day and night. And I think without Ken, we really would have had a void here. And we'd like to present him with this plaque as a tribute of our appreciation. Thank you very much.
I just have to say one small thing to you, very small. You always quoted Isaac as having passion for Beth Israel Synagogue. Unfortunately, we lost Isaac, but you inherited his passion in such a way that it is just an unbelievable thing what this man has taken on. It was thrown under very, very difficult circumstances, and he rose to the occasion and has performed the best that anybody could ask. I love you, Ken. While I'm still up here, and hopefully with strength, I'd like to read something to you that I wrote. Please bear with me if I happen not to be able to do it, but I think I can. Rabbi Wolff, I'm not sure that you will remember this, but I certainly do. A few years ago, almost 10, when you became a rabbi and you made your very first presentation, a speech that did not involve any religious rituals, you asked me what I thought, and I was daring enough to make a comment or two, and perhaps I even dared to make a suggestion. Right away you said to me, Betty, my mother is in England, so you can be my mother in the United States. I looked at you and thought, why didn't you just say that I could be your older sister? Then I realized that you must have known that my son Mark is around your age, and you felt safe making that comment. Immediately I said yes, but thought to myself, how is this going to work? A son to who I can give constructive criticism to, but not a hug or even a handshake. But I did it. Rabbi, do you remember this? You don't remember this at all? So I guess I wasn't such a great mother then. Life went on and things were good. But all of a sudden, this Legion and Fritz's life drastically changed. Isaac became very ill, and you were there every day by our side, giving us comfort and praying for his recovery. You had the hard task of officiating at Isaac's funeral, a man that you grew to love and respect, and you spoke so beautifully and with such emotion. That very difficult day when you were speaking, saying all the proper words of comfort, you made a reference to something that you and my son Mark had in common. Do you remember this, Rabbi? You both knew when I said disapprove of something you were saying or doing. He had a clear look on his face and would also raise an eyebrow in disapproval. Rabbi, I know where Isaac is right now. He's looking at you with a smile of approval and would have given you a heartfelt handshake. Rabbi, I can seriously tell you that not only have you lived up to my expectations of being a great son, but you have excelled in every way. You are a true mensch. Not only are you a warm and caring person, always there when you are needed, but you're also a great friend. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you for being with us.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see all these smiling faces. I want to begin talking a little bit about the history of Beth Israel, and I know there's a little brief description in your programs that you all received, so I just want to hit the highlights and maybe some of the things that you may not know. The dedication of this building occurred in the summer of '75, the first Jewish house of worship in Long Meadow. Beth Israel continues, well, at least for a little while longer, to be the oldest Jewish religious institution in the greater Springfield, Mass. area. Beth Israel became a legal entity on June 2nd, 1892, making it 116 years old. 8 years earlier, there was a group of loyal Jewish immigrants began davening, and it kind of picked up steam and kept going and going, and 8 years later, they incorporated. So unofficially, they were about 124 years old. This first location was on Main Street, and within 2 years, they moved to Grays Avenue with Rabbi Rappaport, whom I think we have a descendant here from the Eisenstats. He was the first rabbi of Beth Israel. And I am told that Grays Avenue no longer exists. But what you may not know is that the building on Grays Avenue was sold to the Mount Calvary Baptist Church. Now, what's interesting about that is that Beth Israel held a mortgage on that property, but after only a few years, voluntarily liquidated it. This unprecedented act of generosity, which affords an insight into the collective character of the congregation, was acclaimed in the November 14, 1941 issue of the Springfield Republican and noted throughout New England. There's actually a copy of it in the lobby in the Sisterhood gift shop window there. And it's truly an amazing thing. I don't think you would see that very much in today. At this time, though, I'd like to give recognition to the former presidents of Beth Israel. They include Harris Kramer, Isaac Brown, Michael Solon, Louis Corbett, Louis Harvey Cohen, Albert Handelman, Rubain Black, Norman Fieldman, Freddie and Alan Miriam, Steve Nissen, and Presidium Presidents David Nair and Isaac Slajan. As I am sure all of you are aware, we are actually called the Alliance of Orthodox Congregations now. Our president, Ken Abrams, unfortunately was unable to be with us here today. But I do want to recognize the other two Alliance Synagogue presidents that are here in attendance today. Hi, Rabinowitz from the former Kesser Israel. Please stand up. And Marshall White from Kadima, please stand up. I know we've been busy these past couple of years. I would be remiss if I didn't mention some of the great cantors Beth Israel has had. Cantor Levine, Cantor Rakoff, Cantor Friedman, Cantor Abramson, Cantor Levin. And most recently, although not officially cantors, are our own Dr. Ira Pollack, who does such great work in our high homily services. And attorney Steve Nissen with his deep bellowing voice, who you heard earlier. Thank you, gentlemen, for all the work that you do. Lastly, I would like to recognize the rabbis of Beth Israel. There's a long list. Rabbi Rappaport, the first one. Rabbi Silver, Rabbi Rosenberg, Rabbi Yellen, Rabbi Moses Sheinkoff and his son, Rabbi David Sheinkoff, Rabbi Weiss, Rabbi Kahan, Rabbi Greengrass, Rabbi Stefanski, Rabbi Slepoy, and finally, our honoree, Rabbi Yakov Wolff. When I think of Rabbi Wolff, the word mensch immediately comes to my mind. I know other people have said the same. He is a rabbi with great integrity and sincerity, with an impeccable reputation. He is a down-to-earth gentleman who is always there for anyone who wishes to talk with him. Not only is he a fantastic rabbi, he is a great teacher, husband, son, brother, father. But most of all, he is truly a great friend to many. Rabbi Wolff greets everyone with a smile. Never a disparaging word about anyone. And when someone here at Beth Israel, on a rare occasion that might be speaking Lashon Hara, he quickly shushes him, but always with a smile. I don't know how he does a rabbi at the gift. The rabbi and I have evolved in our relationship since I've been president these past 3 years. We have similar leadership ideas and have an informal approach at Beth Israel, and the atmosphere here reflects that. I think everybody who davens here knows that it's actually fun. We have a good time. We both are hands-on people. We roll up our sleeves and get things done. On Friday afternoons, one of the rabbi's weekly jobs is to prepare his famous cholent with his secret recipe. I have been told by some members that's why they come to shul, to have his cholent. But whatever it takes to get people in the door, the rabbi is up for the challenge. Whether it's buying food for kiddushes or telling us one of his famous jokes, which I hope we have later, he puts up the sukkah, his inspirational sermons, visiting the sick, or consoling the bereaved. The rabbi is always there for us. The rabbi and I are partners in working to improve Beth Israel's welfare. Together with our wonderful office assistant, Annie, the three of us work together so well, and we succeed in making Beth Israel a warm and friendly place in which to worship. I have to thank Rabbi for making my job easier. He is truly an inspiration to me, and I am proud to call him my rabbi and my very good friend. At this time, I would like to call up the members of the planning committee. They are Betty Slajan, Bonnie Pillar, Dr. Karen Short, Dr. Rick Granowitz, and David Nair. And while they're coming up, I'd like CK and Andy to stand up for all the work that you guys do. Come on in, stand up. CK, that's it. Thank you so much. What? Rabbi, would you like to join us? Well, everybody, are we still talking? Are we still friends here? How are we doing? All right?
I don't know if I'm talking.
We have some gifts here that we'd like to present Rabbi Wolff. And did you want to start off with the plaque?
Sure.
Got a mom.
Sorry.
You want to give my plaque away?
Yes, sure. Why not? Rabbi, I will read what it says. Presented to Rabbi Yakov Wolff in acknowledgement and grateful recognition for a decade of outstanding service. Beth Israel Synagogue, November 9, 2008.
Rabbi Wolff,
We want to thank you very much for everything that you do and present a small token of our appreciation, something that we hope that you will use with your family and guests for Shabbat and Yontif, and always think of Beth Israel when you do. Thank you.
Rabbi, we also have a card here for you. It has something in here that I hope that you can use. And we thank you for being our rabbi and the great mensch that you are. That comes from all the members here, everybody here. And Rabbi, we are going to turn the floor over to you. We'll take these back. I don't want to be an Indian giver, but here we go.
Thank you, everybody. I'm not sure what to say. I'll just begin by saying that one of my children, can everybody hear me? One of my children asked me, will they be serving cholent today? I told him no, but thanks to Gene Shmura, we will be selling it after the event this afternoon. I would like to thank the planning committee, Ken Garnstein, Rick Granowitz, David Nair, Bonnie Pilla, Dr. Karen Shaw, and Betty Slajan. And also everybody else that has worked hard preparing the event today. And I guess if I would thank everybody personally, I would probably be here till this evening. But I really do appreciate it. Well, I was a little reluctant. Well, let me start again. First, I'd like to acknowledge the rabbis that are here today. Also, Rabbi Edelman, Rabbi Hyman, Rabbi Noach Kosovsky, and Rabbi Chaim Kosovsky for coming this afternoon. I was reluctant to say a joke today, but I know that Ken wants me to say one. The reason I'm reluctant to say one is because Kol Nidre by night, I thought I had a pretty good joke. And what happened was there was not one person in the synagogue that laughed when I finished. And I was pretty embarrassed. And somebody came after davening and said to me, Rabbi, you said some beautiful words, but what was your joke? So, but I guess it wasn't a very good one. But I have one for today, and we'll see what happens. So I asked, before we started, I went over to Hai, and I said, Hai, you better laugh. So if nobody else laughs, Hai, I'm counting on you. There was this Jewish immigrant that came over from Poland, and he was looking to become an American citizen. So he went over to his friend Chaim, and he said, Chaim, listen, he says, I want to become an American citizen. There's only one problem, and that is that I don't speak any English. I only speak Yiddish. He said, don't worry, I have no problem. I know of this immigration officer, an old Jew. He will help you out. And the reason is because he always asks the same questions. So there's 5 questions that you have to memorize. You have to learn these 5 questions, and if you learn these 5 questions, you'll be all set. He said, well, what are they? He said, well, question number 1 is you have to know your name. He says, what's your name? He said, my name is Moshe Weiss. Okay, so question number 1 is Moshe Weiss. Question number 2, how many children do you have? The answer is 5. You have 5 children. Question number 3. How many states are there? Listen, you got to say 50. If you say 50, you'll be all set. Question number 4. Who was the first president of the United States? George Washington. And finally, who is more American, me or you? You're to answer both. Well, he prepared it. Moshe Weiss, 5 children, 50 states, George Washington, and both. Right? So he's all set. Well, he comes to the immigration officer, and he sort of fine-tuned the questions a little bit. He decided it's getting a little stale answer this way, so he asked a different way. He said to him, well, who was the first president of the United States? Moshe Weiss. And he said to him, well, how many states are there? He said, 5. That's pretty good. I'm making up for Yom Kippur now. And he said, well, and how many children do you have? He said, 50. And he said, what's your name? He says, George Washington. The immigration officer looks at him and says, listen, who is crazy, you or me? He answered both. Okay. I know Bruce enjoyed that one. Right. On a serious note, I would like to, if I may, I would like to, talk about a little bit of my journey in the last 10 years at Beth Israel Synagogue. And it's been a privilege to work with so many people. And of course, again, I also want to mention Ken. For the last couple of years, I don't think he knew what he was getting himself into. But it's been a pleasure for me to work together with Ken. And like Ken said, we see eye to eye. First of all, we support the same baseball team, which is, doesn't happen too much. I'm sorry, Karen. But we've had many discussions together, and we work together. And I have to say, listen, too much has been said about me tonight. But Ken definitely is a true mensch, and it's been a pleasure to work with you. We mentioned yesterday in the service right before Musaf, we say the words, Kol ha'osek b'sorchei tzibur be'amuna, HaKadosh Baruch Hu yeshalem scharam. In other words, that those that are involved with the communal work faithfully, God will pay their reward. Now, it's definitely a thankless job. And I know, Ken, the hours that you're committed and you're dedicated, and I know sometimes you're going to think, I may put more hours of the shul than I do in my own job. But it's definitely a tremendous honor, and it's a tremendous privilege to be osek b'tzorchei tzibur be'emunah, to work for a community. And God should give you strength, together with your wife Karen and your children, for many more years to be involved and dedicated to the community.
Thank you.
I would also like to thank the other past presidents, like as was mentioned before, of the past 10 years since I've been at Beth Israel, beginning with Attorney Steve, Alan and Freddie Miriam, and David Neer, and of course our dear friend Isaac Eslasian of blessed memory, who was committed to the synagogue with his heart and with his soul, and who we miss very much. Over the years, and this is maybe as a child, my mother taught me something. And what she taught me was the compassion and the love that you need to have for another person. In other words, not looking at a person as a community, but to look at every single person as an individual. And as growing up, learning from my teacher, my mentor, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schnitzen, who taught us that it's not only a privilege, but it's a responsibility to reach out to another person with love and with compassion. And I was trying to think of some of my old jokes over the years, and which brings out a message. And this one came to my mind. There was this rabbi that came to a synagogue on Friday night and realized that he had a $10 in his pocket. And what's he going to do with it? $10, but he wants it for after Shabbos. So he figured, he opens up a Chumash, and he goes to Parshat Yitro, where it says in the Torah, Lo Tignov, that one should not steal. He figured if he sticks the $10 in the page where it says, do not steal, nobody's going to steal it. Well, what happened was he came after Shabbos and it's gone. He can't find his $10, and he was a little upset. I mean, come on, it must have happened over Shabbos, and, why would somebody want to take my $10? Well, he figured he won't worry about it. And as he's going through the Chumash, he turns to another portion, and he looks, and the portion in Parshat Kedoshim, also in the book of Shemot, where it says the words, V'yahavta l'reacha kamocha, that one should love thy friend as thyself, and he found a $5 bill there. So he thought to himself, he said that this person was better than I was. I was concerned about myself. I took the $10, I stuck it in Lo Tigno, one thou shalt not steal, and finished. However, this person was concerned about other people too, and he took 5 for himself, and he left me 5. Over the years, Beth Israel has helped me to continue in my growth and to realize the importance of every individual. And as was mentioned before, making calls, and the story that I said is true. And Abe said, yes, I do call them on Wednesdays, but I get the pleasure, I enjoy hearing their voices and call them. And also, I don't forget, Bert also gets a call. And Zisel, I don't know if anybody knows Zisel. Where's Zisel? Zisel Glushin, right. I'm probably the only one that calls him Zisel. But he also gets a special call every Wednesday. And this was definitely an opportunity for me to build a relationship with people, of course in good times and in sad times too. And getting a minyan sometimes was challenging, and sometimes not knowing, especially on holidays during the week, not knowing if we're going to get a minyan, but somehow we always came together. And this reminds me of one time driving back from the Catskill Mountains after visiting my daughters, and we stopped off in a rest area called New Baltimore, which it's this service station, one gets it from both sides of the highway. So everybody, whether you're going upstate New York or you're going back into the city, everybody stops together at this service station. Well, I'm getting out of my van, and suddenly I hear a voice, "Center!" I looked around, there's some Jew looking for a minyan, and he tells me I'm number 10. I said, figured I haven't davened yet, so I'll join the minyan. Well, what happened was, I come there, and he says, well, I got good news and bad news for you. I said, what's the good news? He says, you're number 10. I said, wonderful, what could be the bad news? He said, we're missing a 9, we're missing a 8, we're missing a 7. It's a true story. So, but in the end, in the end, we did have a minyan, and after waiting a few minutes, and to me this was, we're used to this, right? We're used to working hard to get a minyan, and how could I not forget our good old friend Harvey Gruskin, where the story's told that on one Sunday morning he went to 3 synagogues. Now Harvey was a guy that he came to the synagogue, but if you had 10, he was out of there. If you needed him, he would stay till 2 in the afternoon. Well, this is a one Sunday morning. He starts off at Bethel. They daven at 8. They needed a minyan. They had 10. He left. B'nai Jacob called him at 8:30. He went there. Went home. We called him about 8:45. He came here and he says, "Which person can go to 3 synagogues in one day?" So the point was that Beth Israel over here, we worked hard. And we worked hard to get a minyan. But Baruch Hashem, thank God, over the last few years, it has definitely been a lot easier. But with that challenging time, I personally, with my family, have made a lot of good friends. and thank God, Baruch Hashem, we're blessed with a community with wonderful people.
Barbara Steinberg for setting things up. I know that sounds a little, but that's a lot. Yakov Wolff, who was not able to be here for some of the posters, did a very, very fine job. If we have not mentioned anybody, please know that you are in our hearts and spirits. We thank you for all the little things you've done. Last but not least, the Committee of Six that put this event together, Ken Gorenstein, Karen Shore, Rick Granowitz, Dave Nair, Bonnie Pillar, and Betty Slajan. Again, thank you very, very much. And one thing I'd like to say that I've learned, when I was given the honor of coaching the 2002 Maccabi boys basketball team, and we were playing for the third place bronze medal game, one of my players said, how do we beat the other team? Well, it's something that Rabbi Wolff taught me. You're not going to beat the other team by one person scoring, one person rebounding. It's going to be a team effort. And one of the kids says, well, what really is greatness? And my definition was the ability to make other people around you better. And that truly is what your essence is, Rabbi Wolff. So thank you very, very much for that. We now have Fred Hyman. I guess, Fred, you're going to come up and Lech, please, okay? And thank you very much for coming. It's been a pleasant pleasure. Thank you very much.
Let's give Dr. Steve Sobel a round of applause for his efforts here today, too. Thank you very much. We're going to be passing around the benches, so please give another moment. Please wait before you leave. And I'd just like to mention to Rabbi Wolff that you mentioned the idea that we're all responsible for one another. And that's the idea of Kol Yisrael Arevim Zel Hazeh. We're all responsible for one another. And to be a strong community, we need to continue to come together and to make our efforts for everyone else, behalf of everyone else. I thank everyone who's bringing out the benchers so that we can have one more moment of Thanksgiving, because November is also a day of Thanksgiving in America. So we're going to give thanks not only to Rabbi Wolff here, but we also have a lot of thanks to give to Hashem for all the blessings that we have. So in conclusion, I want to thank everyone who's coming here today, because each of you individually is performing a mitzvah. Because even though we say Kol Arevim Zel Hazeh, that's a halachic principle, that when my spiritual responsibility is not complete, that means you can fulfill it for me and I get the credit as well. However, there are some exceptions. And one exception is giving thanks. That's why, for example, we have the Modim D'Rabbanan. When we recite the Mamida and we have the repetition, we do not let the Chazan recite the Modim by himself. The congregation also has to say the Modim as individuals. And the principle is one that's very, very important. And I'd like everyone to listen to this principle because it's really very important. Jewish law teaches us etiquette. It teaches us how to behave. And when we have to give thanks to somebody, when we have to give thanks to somebody, we cannot let somebody else do it. We have to do it by ourselves. It wouldn't be menschlich, it wouldn't be proper etiquette for somebody to do a favor for you and you let somebody else say thank you. You have to say thank you by yourselves to the individual. So everyone who is here today, you are saying thank you to Rabbi Wolff as an individual. And so we have 150 people here, Rabbi Wolff, individually saying thank you to you. The speeches that were made were done collectively, but the individual spirit of you all is resonating loud and clear to Rabbi Wolff and his wonderful family. And it's that sense of spirit, the individuality, that is required for us to build our community together. So I hope and pray that all of us can continue to come together and to contribute our individual spirit and essence for the benefit of the community. So let's now turn to the Birkat Hamazon, the benchers. There are a number of different editions that are there, so please find the proper page. Some of them it's 55, some of them 60. There are a number of different benches there, so and our thanks to everyone who participated and who made the arrangements for us today. Rabosai Nivared, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach V'yatav Yad Olam, Dereshus, Rabbanim, Kohanim, Rabosai Nivared, Eloheinu Shechanu Mishalom, Baruch Eloheinu Shechanu Mishalom, Tuvo, Chayinu, Ruchu Shemo, Baruch Come on, you break. As come so we can, oh, son is Bashilan and commotion is Rosina, Rami Taviako, Komiko, Kenya, Varega, Sanagulanu Yakai, Viraka Shalai Mavendo Marame. Israel Vimru Amen, Yeru Es Adonai, Kedoshav, Ki Ematsu, Lireyav, Kefirim Rashu, Miraivu, Vedor, Shedonai, Lo Yaklu Koto, Odul Adonai, Kitav, Kili Olam Chasto, Hoseach Es Yadecha, Umas V'yalachol Cheratzon, Baruch HaGever,
but I changed it to Hi, H-I, because I used to see these billboards, Hi Neighbor, Narragansett Beer. And I was in the advertising and public relations business, and I am a cartoonist, and I used to be with Walt Disney, and I did Betty Boop and Popeye. But my heart belongs to the Beth Israel, and that's the way it is. We've been members for 94 years.
What is your name?
And I'm Abe Nair. I'm the baby. I'm only 92 years young. And I can go back, and I can remember that when we first went to the first show on Chestnut Street, and when we paid our dues, there were 9 of us in our family. We were the largest group for membership there. And I can remember during Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, during the holidays, the rabbi used to say, now we need some money for the winter, for our oil. At that time, they used to call the oil was 10 cents a gallon. And everybody, in turn, each aisle, they would go down, how much are you going to give for oil? He says, I'm going to give 5 gallons. That's every bit, it's 50 cents. But High used to have a friend of his, Mr. Schwartz. And Mr. Schwartz used to say, I'm going to give 2 great quarts.
2 quarts. You know, I'd like to go back to our family. There were 9 of us. There were 4 girls and 5 boys. And my father was looking for a tenement in Springfield down the North End. And he picked one particular area where there were a lot of tenements. And he saw one in particular that he was interested in, so he asked for the landlord. And the landlord came out and said, what can I do for you? The landlord happened to be German. So my father said, I'm looking for a tenement. He says, do you have any children? And my father said, 9. Now 9 in German means nothing. So he said, then you could have the apartment. And the 9 first marched in, the guy almost had a heart attack.
What street
That's
was
a true
that?
story, Linden Street.
You started out on Linden Street?
Yeah, that's
Linden Street now.
That's where the Sacred Heart Church is. Are you familiar with
Street
Springfield?
now is 91, Route 91.
Right on that corner is where Linden Street was.
Where did your father come from before he moved to Linden
Romania.
Romania. We're Romanians, if you'll pardon the expression.
Did he come from Romania to New York and then?
To New York, to Boston, and to Springfield.
Then he asked for my mother. He brought my mother over from
I
Romania.
understand you work at the Waldorf Astoria.
He worked every place. Every place he sold insurance. He did everything to make a living. For 9 people, he had to make a living.
What brought him to Springfield?
I don't know. Maybe because of basketball.
When you were youngsters, where did you shop? Did you go to Ferry Street?
Yeah, Ferry Street. We shopped any place that we could steal anything. You know, I mean, it was.
They used to have horse and wagon in those days.
You can remember this?
Yeah.
Oh, I can remember it deeply. And in the back of our apartment, a little Jewish man would come with a wagon and his horse. You know, the horse was 82 years old. You know, but he would come and he would ring his big bell. And people would come down from the 4th floor down, and we would buy from his, not a truck, it was just a wagon. And I remember we used to buy sweet corn, which was 25 cents a dozen, and you bought oranges maybe for 2 cents a piece, and you bought grapes. You bought grapes, the whole big bunch like this, but no bags. They didn't have any such thing. The Weibeler used to come with the apron. Take the apron, put it out, and put in everything into the apron. Then we snip it and put it over the shoulders. That's the way, that's the way we bought.
We were so poor that the rainbow came out in black and white. That's how poor we were. You know, there's another story about the Icemen. We used to have cards and put them up in the window. There was a card that says 25, 50, 100, and that's the way you put it in your window, and when the Iceman came up,
How many pounds to carry up?
That's right.
That's the way you pay 15 cents, you would buy 25 pounds.
Do you recall?
To go back to Beth Israel,
yeah,
we can remember when we first started, we would walk to shul, and on Chestnut Street, where it originally was, and it was interesting because they named the street after chestnut trees that lined up from State Street all the way down to a little past the Springfield Hospital. Must have been about 4 miles long. And unfortunately, well, remember High and I used to climb the trees during the holidays, and we would grab these beautiful chestnuts
Yeah.
They were like a plum. But there was a blight in 1927. And it killed all the trees, the whole street long way. You can remember with one of our most learned rabbis was Rabbi Silver. And he married my sister Goldie, and we can remember I was
Beth Israel.
about 15 at Beth Israel. And he came to the show. He was a wonderful, beautiful man. Came to the show in a limousine and with a chauffeur.
Where did he come? Where was he coming
With
from?
a top hat from his home. He was a very distinguished gentleman. This was one of the, I think he was the second rabbi. And this is maybe like 1922, somewhere around like that. He became one of the, he went to Cincinnati after that, and was like number 2 in the country.
Yeah, Silver, he was a great rabbi.
Wonderful. In those days, the rabbi was higher than our president. Beautiful person.
Can you recall also merchants, these again men with carts? Would they sing to you? Would they call out to you?
Sure.
Susa Sachin or
Well, it was like Delancey Street and Orchard Street in New York. We had them here. We had guys who went around with bags of potatoes. You know, you pick push carts.
In push carts?
Oh, yeah.
Would they come down your street, or
Yeah.
would you go to Ferry Street?
Well, we either go to Ferry Street or
just-
Congress Street. There were 5 delicatessens on Ferry Street
What do
at
you
one
remember?
time.
Yeah.
I remember every one of them. There
Go
was
ahead.
Benny's restaurant.
There was Benny's, Hotsburg,
Yeah.
Klibanoff, let's see, Gosses.
How about, who was the one, he and his wife?
Oh, Schneider's.
Jake.
Corned beef and they were known for their corned beef sandwiches. Salesmen used to come from all over the area, all over the state. And he was the most miserable man that ever lived. Another 3 couples went in there one day and he was closing. So he says, I'm only going to give for 2 couples. That's the kind of man he was. He was, but the greatest sandwich. They had Nicholas Stickle, you know, a piece of a...
Was there a pickle merchant?
Pardon?
Pickles?
Pickle.
Was there a pickle merchant?
Yeah, there was a guy, Peanuts Cone. His father used to cucumbers.
Yeah,
Used to make these
salsa.
sour.
You can buy
salsa.
We had a guy named Meyer Cohn who was a boxer, and he fought Lou Tendler at one time and knocked him out in Holyoke. But his main thing was seltzer.
What about butcher shops? What do you remember?
Oh, there was Ruby Bernstein,
Ruby
2
and Meyer
brothers.
Bernstein.
Yeah, 2 brothers. Ruby
Yeah,
and
2
Meyer.
brothers. 2 brothers. Great. Then it was Klibanoff, we had the fish market.
And then it was Oscar's where they made milkshakes and malted milks. You know, they'd come in and say, I want a malted. Yeah. You know.
I tell you, we used to have, when we were on Linden Street, that was mostly the Jewish section. Linden Street, Bell Avenue, and right on the opposite Linden Street was Cass Street. Now, these were the Irish. The Irish were
Hungry Hill, they called
in that area, and they called it Hungry Hill. And we were down on Linden Street and Bell Avenue, Franklin Street. That was the Jewish area. It's funny, when we were kids, between the Jews and the Irish people, we'd get up in the morning, like during the summer. We'd get up in the morning, and there would be a fight. Every day, for maybe 15 minutes, we would fight with each other, with the Jews and the Irish and so forth. Had a fight.
You got it over.
After, once it's over, okay, let's go play. Then we go to Ruth Elizabeth Playground, and we play baseball.
Or Van Horn or Calhoun Park.
Van Horn, yeah.
You know, it was wonderful about, we were brought up at the Springfield Boys Club. That's where they made a man out of you. We had a fellow, an Irish guy named, there was Harry Feldman and Mark Moran. They ran the place for the kids, but the director was a guy named Paul Sampson, and the one previous to that was Fred Stevenson. And these guys, I mean, that's where that's where you became a man. We got a great education out of that.
We at the Boys Club.
Was it Jewish and Irish kids
Everybody,
together?
blacks, everything.
And we were great of
Oh.
friends. I knew so many of these guys who became.
I still know a lot of them today.
Eddie Boland was congressman. Danny Keys was chief justice.
Natty Ryan, district attorney. They're all my friends, and I still get along great with them.
You know, we never had a key to our house.
You didn't lock the doors.
What
didn't have any doors. We had to come through the
Were you
window.
living in a tenement most of your childhood, or did you move to a house? Did you stay on
We
Linden
lived in
Street?
a block.
We're going back now. Let's go back in 1914, 1916, and on Linden Street there was four apartment blocks. There was 4 on each side, so 8 families in a family. There was no heat. We lived in a cold flat. Now you can't visualize this, you see. We had the Big Mac stove, if you remember that, and we had whatever we used for heat. I mean, there was a coal yard on Linden Street.
Crowley's Coal Yard.
Crowley's Coal Yard. We used to buy a bag of coal for 25 cents.
We called the guy a name and he'd throw coal at us, and he'd stand there with a sack. I don't make these things up. You know, I was going to do a book called I Miss Being Poor. We had more, when I think back of the things that we did when we were kids, unbelievable. And there's 9 of us, not one in our family ever had any bad reputation, any jail or anything. 9 people. And we all got along fabulous.
How many of you stayed in the Springfield area, and how many of the family?
Most of
Two of us left. Ty and I are the only 2.
We were the last 2. I was the last one left. And I wound up in Bridgeport, and then I went to Florida, and I worked at Gulliver's Travels and Popeye and Betty Boop. I was an animator cartoonist. Anyway, and then he became a buyer at King's Department Store, spending $1 million.
About 27 odd years. Yeah. We had a great
chief buyer.
We had a great life. We weren't poor. We didn't know from being poor. We worked. We were 6 years old. I had a route.
Newspapers?
In newspapers.
Well,
give you a better idea. We have a record in high school for being late 103 times. And this story is, we used to get up in the morning. Every morning we had a job.
We went from family to family.
We were like
delivering bread.
10 years old, delivering bread. Oh, this fellow, his name was William Apple, and he used to have a truck.
His son is here. His son belongs here.
Lepo.
Yeah.
Yeah, William Apple. His son, was a member of the Beth Israel. We would get up 4:30 in the morning, and Hy and I would have turns every morning. And Willie used to come up and go up the 3 flights of stairs, open up the door, no key, and he'd wake up Hy. And I would get dressed, go downstairs, and go to work and deliver bread and rolls. And we used to run up 3-4 flights of stairs and deliver the bread and rolls. In the truck, Willie used to have a knife and cut the pumpernickel bread. And in little bags, we put 6 rolls, bagel, bring them upstairs. Well, we did that, and we got the whole big sum
of 12 rolls,
$3 a week,
and all the rolls you could eat,
and a loaf of bread.
Every day you deliver. Every day
delivered. I'll tell you another thing. We lived on the corner of Linden Street where the Sacred Heart Church is. We went from my oldest brother to my next brother to me to him. We sold the Sunday paper every Mass. We got up 4 o'clock in the morning, and every time the Mass brought, every hour, we were out there with all our Sunday papers.
You
and
know
we went
that
from family to family.
I
to family.
remember.
You know, incidentally, we're not doing what he's asking. He wants to know about. We're telling him our life story.
All right.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
My mother used to help us. We had a little red wagon to schlepp with those papers on it. But to get back with it, Beth Israel meant a lot to us.
Yeah.
This is an incident that happened in 1943. My mother died. The president of the shul, when they had the hearse coming, they picked up my mother, brought her to the entrance of the Beth Israel Synagogue, took the body out, brought it to the front door of the Beth Israel. They opened up the door, and the rabbi said a prayer. They brought the body back to the hearse, and went to all 4 synagogues. That's the first and only time I've ever heard of them honoring a woman.
What was it about your mother that they did this?
Because she had 9 children.
9 children, and every one of them were
But
just...
she, not only that, she helped everybody on that street.
You know, I should add something here. My oldest brother, Max, and his wife were very, very instrumental in making Beth Israel what it is today, and they didn't get enough credit for it.
My sisters were...
That's David's father
president.
and mother.
David's father was president. David was
They were
president.
instrumental in getting the bingo that ran the show, practically. But they never got the deserved credit. Thank you.
So, what's your name?
Carol Engelson.
Engelson?
Engelson, yes.
And where do you come from?
I live here in Long Meadow now. I'm originally from Worcester County, but my husband has been a native of Springfield and Long Meadow all his life.
And we're here today at an event honoring Rabbi Wolff and the closing of
Beth Israel
Beth
Synagogue.
Israel. And what did you want to share with us?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, Beth Israel has been in our lives. My husband was bar mitzvah here. Our son had his bris and his he had a hatafat dam and his pidyon ben here, and he had his bar mitzvah here. He had 2 bar mitzvahs here, one on the day he was actually turned 13 on a Thursday morning, and then the one on a Shabbos a little while later. But the story I would like to tell in tribute to Rabbi Wolff is about something he did for my mom. My mother, Sandra Herzberg, was very ill. She was in the hospital. She was on a ventilator. She had a terrible infection, high fevers. She was very, very sick. And it was Purim. And the rabbi had read the Megillah here in Shul. And my mother was in a subacute care hospital. And Rabbi said, I'm going to go to the hospital and I'm going to read the Megillah for your mother. And I said, Rabbi, my mother's functionally deaf. I can't even guarantee that she'll be awake. And I know you're very tired. He said, no, I'm going to do it. He came to the hospital. He read the Megillah, the whole Megillah, the ganze Megillah. She was awake. She did wake up, and she started getting better after that day.
And is she well now?
No, she did, but she lived, after that, she lived for about another 3 years.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And I mean, her time eventually came. But she got off the ventilator. When she died, she was off the ventilator. And I do believe in miracles, and I think that was a little miracle in our lives.
It sounds like a wonderful rabbi.
Yeah.
I think he's going to miss being a pulpit rabbi. It's going to be a very big vacuum for him.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Does he remain a rabbi here until the building actually closes?
Absolutely, and we're not closing quite as soon as we thought.
Mm-hmm.
We're closing, we were going to close in December, now we're closing in the spring.
What had happened? Somebody made an offer and then backed out?
Yes, yeah. The Sunrise Assisted Living had made an offer, and then with what's happening in the financial crisis in the country, they had to withdraw their offer here and also other places all over the country. It wasn't just with our with this arrangement that they had to withdraw. So we're going to keep the building open until we do the move to B'nai Jacob.
Can the community afford to keep it open?
Yes. We this building runs at a little bit of a loss, but not an obscene loss. So.
I didn't get the impression that any of them were running at terrible losses, frankly.
Well, according to some of the financial statements, some buildings are running operations are less economical than others.
Right.
Okay, I think we should...
Do you want to first tell me your husband's name again?
Richard Engelson.
And your children's names?
Abraham and Elke.
And tell me where Abraham is now.
Abraham is in the Smicha program at Yeshiva University.
And how old is he?
He is...
Approximately?
Let's see. He was born in 1985, so that would make him He's 23, and our daughter is 21. She married last year, so her last name is Sudin. She's Elke Sudin.
Elke?
Elke, and she's a senior at Pratt Institute in Brooklyn.
And clearly your son is remaining Orthodox.
Yes.
And do you see your daughter also?
She covers her hair. She's Shomer Shabbos. She's, yeah.
And were your parents Orthodox?
Not at all. No, no.
That's
My
nice.
mother was born in Poland, and she was on the last peacetime boat out of Poland. She and her sister, they had been orphaned as little girls and lived in a Beis Yesemim, which is an orphanage. But they were fortunate to have an uncle in the United States who cared about his nieces and brought them here to this country.
And was he Orthodox?
Not at all, no.
But he
They
said-
lived in a part of Poland. It was only Poland between World War I and World War II. And it's in Belarus, I think, now. And from the reading that I've done, that was a very kind of
secularized.
It was more secularized. Even so, there may have been Hasidim in the city. They were in Slonim. Many of the Jews in that area were secularized. They kept kosher because all the Jews did, and they kept Shabbos in their fashion because that's what Jews did, but not because they were religious, except that my mother, now her parents, her mother, father, and grandmother all died when she was 6 years old of various diseases, and she does remember her father laying tefillin in the morning. So maybe had her parents lived, it would have been a more religious household.
So she saw you becoming observant.
Yes, yeah.
And is your orthodoxy part of your marriage to Richard?
Yes, well, it's since you've asked.
This is interesting to us.
Okay, since you've asked, when Richard and I married, I was actually executive director of Temple Beth El, which was a short interim career I had. I'm a teacher, and I taught before and I taught after. But I was executive director of Temple Beth El, so I was in the conservative movement. And he was a member of Beth Israel Synagogue. His parents kept a kosher home. And so we got married and we decided to keep kosher. And then Richard had been on the board of Lubavitcher Yeshiva Academy and suggested we send our kids there. And for the preschool, fine. I was a public school teacher. I found that very intimidating, the idea of sending them to such a religious school. Well, I was so wrong. First of all, it was a chance. When I went back to work, my two children could be at the same school. It was a wonderful, nurturing, warm environment. They saw each other on the playground. If I couldn't be with them, they could be with each other. And they got a fantastic education there. So our Abraham, I think this is kind of a cute story. He had a very difficult first 5 months. And I don't know if it was beshert or not, but he became religious. And when he was a little boy and he decided he wanted to become more observant, he weaned himself off Saturday morning cartoons. Every Shabbos he watched an hour less of television until he wasn't watching television on Shabbos.
He was how old?
I don't know, 6. I don't know how old he was. How old are you when you watch cartoons? And then...
Older. Also.
He could have been older.
He could have been 10.
And then he started making the house Shomer Shabbos. He started with his bedroom, leaving the light on in the closet. And then it was his bedroom and the bathroom next to his bedroom. And Shabbos moved through the house until it got to the kitchen. And I was, at that point I had started, well, if I cooked on Shabbos, I wouldn't cook for the week, I would just cook for Shabbos. And then one Friday, I was ready before Shabbos started with all my cooking. And that's when the house became Shomer Shabbos.
That's a lovely story.
Yeah. And both of my children are very good at getting a job done by thinking about it incrementally, which is not a trait they got from their mother at all. Perhaps from their father, but not from their mother. So,
do you still teach
yes.
in the public school?
In a public school.
What grade do you teach?
I teach high school. I teach chemistry and biology at the moment.
At
West Springfield High School. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask the name of your mother again?
Sandra Herzberg.
And your father?
They're both of blessed memory, Fritz Herzberg.
Right. And where were you born?
I was born in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. And I will tell you, if you have a moment, the story of how they met, because I think it's an interesting story. My dad was in the Army. He was also an immigrant. And since he was fluent in German, he was born in Germany, he was an interpreter at Fort Devens. And in those days, they would have dances, and they would bring girls to the fort. So my father was at a dance, and he saw my mother, and they danced. And my mother kind of looked French or Italian, and my father looked very Aryan, and his name was Fritz Reinhard Herzberg, blonde and blue-eyed. And he asked her out, and there was no way that she was going to go out with this German. A few weeks later, they had Friday night services at the fort. And Robert Squires, who was a bunkmate of my father's and was from Long Meadow, Springfield, Long Meadow, said, "Fritz, get off your duff, let's go to Friday night services." My dad didn't go all the time.
Squires was a Jew.
Yes, a Jew from Long Meadow, from Springfield.
Yeah.
So he said, let's go to Friday night services. And that particular Friday night, they had bussed in a bunch of girls from Lowell, and my mother was one of the girls, and she saw my father and then went, "Oh boy," and that was the beginning of the end.
That's a lovely story.
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.